got a favor to ask you. Listen to this for me quickly. And then what about this? Did you feel a difference between those two sound bites? The first one, the frenetic buzzing and humming and hooting and aggression of being stuck in traffic. A to-do list that never ends. That sensation of feeling overwhelmed, of the walls closing in on you, a claustrophobic cacophony of emotions, just tightening its noose around you, and that's just to start the day. And yet you move on to the second soundbite. Nature, trees, the stream trickling in the distance, birds chirping, the wind dancing through the leaves. How did that make you feel? If you're anything like me, the difference would be notable. And that's what this podcast today is about. It is about the concept of Shinrin-yoku, or in English translation, forest bathing. So, have you ever bathed in a forest? That is my question to you. And this is based on a wonderful book that I read by Hector Garcia and Francesc Morales, Forest Bathing, the Rejuvenating Practice of Shinrin-yoku. And I was so inspired by this book that I thought that it would be such a wonderful topic. And I think that it's something that's so poignant in today's society that it's going to touch base with a lot of people. So let me share this story with you. I was prepping for this episode in my garden. I was reading through Forest Bathing. I was revising it and going through it. And I was sitting outside and I was underneath a tree. And over time, even though I thought I was quite relaxed and being present in the moment and enjoying myself, I realized that after about 30 minutes, my foot relaxed and I sort of sank into the chair and my feet sank into the ground and my toes interacted with the floor. And I realized that that was the first time that had happened during my time in the garden that afternoon. And it really drew awareness to the fact that we are so on edge all the time, that it really is a skill to be able to learn to relax. It is trendy to talk about work ethic and the grind and outwork the next person and hardest worker in the room, and that has its place. But what about rest ethic? What about your ability to rest, to recover, to rejuvenate, without being hooked into that inevitable frenetic pace of to-do lists and life? And this is what the book Forest Bathing is about. So they explore how immersing ourselves in nature restores the body, the mind, and the spirit. And in this episode, I'm going to take you through what this book is all about, the science behind it, as well as what can we do to implement it. So forest bathing, by definition, It was coined in the 1980s by the Japanese government, and it's basically time spent in nature. But I love the term forest bathing, bathing in a forest. It really summarizes what it means to be in nature quite aptly and succinctly. So let's get into the core message of the research behind forest bathing. And I'd like to read you some of the more well-known and well-cited studies based on what Shinrin-yoku is and the benefits that it has. So nature, the principle of Shinrin-yoku is that nature is a therapy, it's a form of therapy and healing. And you get your psychological benefits from that, and you get your physiological benefits from it. So here's some research. They conducted a field experiment in 24 forests across Japan, and in each experiment, 12 subjects, 280 in total, people in their early 20s, walked in and viewed a forest or city area. On the first day, 6 subjects were sent to a forest area and the others to a city area. On the second day, each group was sent to the other area as a cross-check. Salivary cortisol, blood pressure, pulse rate, and heart rate variability were used as indices. These indices were measured in the morning at the accommodation facility before breakfast and also before and after walking and viewing. The results showed that forest environments promote lower concentrations of cortisol, that's your stress hormone, lower pulse rate, lower blood pressure, greater parasympathetic nerve activity, and lower sympathetic nerve activity. So those are references to your stress responses, your fight or flight response. And these are all improving in comparison to being in a city environment. These results will contribute to the development of a research field dedicated to forest medicine, which may be used as a strategy for preventative medicine. So the important thing to note here is there are so many variables when looking at in nature, and it becomes very difficult as a result to determine and to distinguish between why these specific indices improved and would they have improved in similar situations. So in other words, can you attribute with 100% certainty that it is the nature, it is the walking in nature that is improving these markers? So keep that in mind, but we are looking for an overarching theme here to gather enough prospective evidence to suggest that this is something that we should try and to improve in our daily lives. Second study. Globally, around 55% of the population live in a fast-paced urban setting where many people find it challenging to manage their stress and response to crises with a positive mindset. This results in prolonged distress where anxiety and fatigue cause physical and mental health concerns. Nature walks involving immersive exposure in forest and in green spaces have been posited to offer physiological and psychological benefits. The primary outcomes explored in this review were mainly psychological, including anxiety, depression, mood, and quality of life. The secondary outcomes were physiological outcomes such as blood pressure and heart rate. This was a meta-analysis, so they reviewed over 36 articles with a total of 3,554 participants in total. This was included in the review, and the meta-analysis suggested that forest bathing can significantly reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. However, they did not observe as many benefits in physiological outcomes. Against the background of the negative effects of urbanization and on mental well-being, this review highlighted the potential therapeutic role of forests in the contemporary world, lending further evidence-based support for forest conservation. Finally, this study goes on to talk about, the final study goes to talk on about natural killer cells. So in Japan, a forest bathing trip called Shinrin-yoku, in Japanese, a short leisurely visit in a forest, is regarded as being similar to natural aromatherapy. This review focuses on the effects of forest bathing trips on human immune function. Beginning in 2005, adult Japanese individuals, both male and female, participated in a series of studies aimed at investigating the effect of forest bathing trips on human immune function. The subjects experienced 3-day, 2-night trips to forest areas, and blood and urine were sampled on days 2 and 3, and on days 7 and 30 after the trip. The study found that increased NK activity lasted for more than 30 days after the trip, suggesting that a forest bathing trip once a month would enable individuals to maintain a higher level of NK activity. One of the key tenets of forest bathing, or Shinrin-yoku, is the ability to just be. And there's a beautiful phrase in Japanese philosophy and Japanese culture with respect to this, which is called Yugen. Yugen. And this word is there to describe the feelings that are too deep for words. So it's a profound sense of beauty and mystery in the universe, a loss of individuality, and a distinct realization of being part of a greater cosmic arena. And what I'd like to do is to share a quote with you on a wonderful philosopher by the name of Henry David Thoreau. And this is from 1854, where he decided that the city life was too much for him and he wanted to reconnect with nature. And he went to live out in the woods for about 2 years. And this was one of his musings, if you will. He said, "I wish to speak a word for nature, for absolute freedom and wildness, as contrasted with the freedom and culture merely civil, to regard man as an inhabitant or a part and parcel of nature rather than a member of society." So what he's speaking about here is a perfect summary of Yugen. It is the complete immersion in the wondrous nature of the outdoors, and to see yourself as part of something bigger, something more beautiful. Another quote by Henry David Thoreau mentioned being in the woods and what it means to be present. And it read, "I am alarmed when it happens that I have walked a mile into the woods bodily without getting there in spirit. In my afternoon walk, I would fain forget all my morning occupations and my obligations to society. But it sometimes happens that I cannot easily shake off the village. The thought of some work will run into my head, and I'm not where my body is. I am out of my senses. In my walks, I would fain return to my senses. What business have I in the woods if I'm thinking of something out of the woods? I suspect myself and cannot help shudder when I find myself so implicated even in what are called good works. For this may sometimes happen." Let's keep in mind that this was 1854. So the second half of the 19th century. And boy, oh boy, could this not resonate more and be more true in the times of today, 2025, nearly 200 years later. How easy is it to get caught up in the pursuits of the material world, the pressures of the material world, and be somewhere bodily, but not spiritually. And to be there spiritually means to be 100% present in the moment, engaging with everything that is around you. And that's a large portion of what it means to have an antidote to the likes of depression and anxiety. Anxiety is this negative spiral that gets out of control with you trying to forecast something that hasn't happened yet. And depression might be something like ruminating in the past. But whether you're stuck in the past or worried about the future, you're certainly not in the present. And that's what makes being outdoors so important and so vital, is the reconnection and the recalibration of the senses. So when you're out there, reconnect with your senses. What can you see? What can I smell? What can I taste? What can I feel? And what can I hear? So that leads me on to some guidelines with respect to how should you forest bathe. There are 5 steps to Shinrin-yoku, and let's get into them. Number 1, surrender to the present moment. So that's what David Henry Thoreau was speaking about, how he found himself there in body but not in spirit. And what right does he have to be in the woods in body if he's not there in spirit? So pay attention to the spaces in between the sounds. So this is something that I learned from The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. I hope I'm saying his surname correctly. I never know how to pronounce it. But paying attention to the space in between sounds offers you enough time to just pause and to be in the moment. And so often we follow the noise. We respond and react to the noise, the harsh noise of the traffic, of the bikes going past, the cars speeding past, the hooting, the ambulances, the phones ringing and beeping. How often do we find ourselves responding to those and paying attention to that and not paying attention to the spaces in between the noises? Second step is have no destination. Again, in a modern world, we are driven by goals, performance bonuses, incentives. And it's less about the journey and more about the destination. And it's the destination that determines the success of your endeavor, and also, in some respects, is largely linked to one's self-image and identity. So when you're out and you're forest bathing, try not to fall into the trap of having a destination, having a goal in mind, getting a certain amount of steps and completing a certain amount of kilometers in a certain amount of time. Have no destination. Let your feet be your compass. Let your senses guide you. And just be. Thirdly, take slow, deep breaths. So this has lots of connotations to meditation, and again, bringing you back to the present moment. So the more one can focus on their breath, the more that centers us in the present moment. So that would make perfect sense. Walking in the forest, being in the present, being in the moment, taking slow, deep breaths. Number 4, let your thoughts pass you by. A great analogy in meditation, if ever you've learned or tried to learn how to meditate, they often use the analogy of your thoughts passing you by, letting your thoughts pass you by. And the imagery would be something like watching the clouds pass you in the sky, standing on the side of the highway and watching the cars go past. So an element of removing yourself and viewing yourself externally as in a third party and viewing those thoughts and not attaching emotion to them and letting them pass you by. Number 5, feel yourself as being part of everything. So experience the magic of being. Experience the magic of just being there. It comes back to Yugen. It comes back to being a part of a greater cosmic arena, of being part of nature rather than a member of society. And just melting into what is and what is around you. So that, my friends, is Shinrin-yoku in a nutshell. And my challenge to you is to try and build this into your day-to-day living. If you can spend some time in nature, if you're fortunate enough to have a garden, spend some time in your garden. No phones. Leave the phones behind. Put it on flight mode if perhaps you have to have it with you. But just be in nature. And give it some time. Work on your rest ethic. Just like the story that I alluded to at the beginning of this episode. It takes time. You're not going to just ease straight into it and feel like you're super relaxed and you're really present and in the moment. It might take 30 minutes in the beginning. Sometimes if you've only got 10 minutes, you might not even get there in 10 minutes. But I promise you now, you're 10 minutes closer to getting there the next time that you do it, and the following time, and the time after that, and the time after that. So make a deliberate effort to immerse yourself in nature and to be aware of the wonder that is nature. Try to bring people into your inner circle and bring them along for the ride. Try to encourage them to do it as well. If you're local, if you're in Durban, if you're in South Africa, there's an abundance of nature, of nature reserves, game reserves, beaches. The list is endless. So experience the magic of being in the outdoors. And enjoy the process for what it is. There's a wonderful quote by Tara Gold, which says, "To wish for perfection is to deny reality." So don't fight reality. Don't fight your current situation. If you can't switch off immediately, then just keep trying. And you'll eventually get to the point where you can. It might not be this week, it might not be the week after that. But if you do it often enough, you will get there eventually. So that's my challenge to you for this week. If you like this episode, then please let me know, comment. It's been 2 years since the start of the Expect Performance podcast. And the more feedback I get on what episodes you enjoy and which episodes you don't enjoy so much, the more I can tailor make the content to suit your needs. And then we both win. We get more listeners and you get better content. So let me know, comment, and if it's something that you really enjoyed and you think you've got some friends and family that would like to listen to this or that would benefit from something like this, then don't be shy to share it along.